While I was in the emergency room waiting to be looked at, I was sitting with my sister, and I began to become very light sensitive, and I also developed more of a headache. My sister asked the intern if I could get a cool, damp cloth placed over my eyes to help alleviate my discomfort. I was sitting near another individual who noticed my cloth, asked where I got it from, as she too was dealing with a migraine headache, and thought that the cloth looked like it might help her discomfort as well. This was the first time when I thought maybe I was dealing with something other than a sinus infection, as there was another individual who was in the emergency room also dealing with the headache. So I thought, that's odd. I wonder if I have something else. I actually thought maybe spinal meningitis or something, as I remember hearing there were a couple of cases recorded. Soon after this, my light sensitivity and my headache had not subsided, so a staff member in the waiting room moved me to a triage area of the emergency room, where I was given my own room, where I could turn off the lights to dampen my sensitivity. I remember lying on a bed with a cloth over my eyes and my sister in a chair in the same room. Not long later, an individual came up to me and said that they were going to give me something for my pain, take some blood, and send me for an MRI. A short time later, if I remember correctly, I was given a wheelchair, and an individual began to wheel me off to get an MRI. At this point, my sister decided to go to another place in the emergency room with better cell reception to call my wife and give her an update. While my sister was going to this other area, she heard a code red announced over the hospital speakers and that assistance was needed. My sister didn't think much about this announcement as she was in a hospital emergency room after all. Moments later, an individual approached my sister and said that she needed to come with them as the code red was for her brother, me. So my memories of this time are pretty much non existent. But what I've learned is that while I was being wheeled by a staff member to get an MRI, the aneurysm burst. So not only was I in a hospital emergency room, I was actually with a staff member when it occurred. I've learned that my light sensitivity was due to the fact that my pupils in my eyes had dilated, and that the person who was with me actually suspected something was wrong due to this dilation before my aneurysm actually burst. The aneurysm that burst was in the pica. The pica is an acronym. The P is the posterior, meaning the back. The I is for the word inferior, or a branch. The C represents that this is a cerebral or brain location. And lastly, the A means it is an artery and not a vein. One of the things I did not mention in my sermon is that when my aneurysm burst, this trauma induced a grand mal seizure. If you know anyone dealing with epilepsy, you may recognize that a grand mal seizure is the highest category of seizure that might occur. I do not have epilepsy, and I've never had a seizure prior to the moment when the aneurysm burst. Again, this is attributed to the trauma that my brain received from the burst. At some point after the aneurysm burst, I was given some injections to reduce the pain, and apparently I was apparently in. I have a memory of the moment when doctors were attempting to calm me down and sedate me to help ease this pain. This memory is very vague and feels more like a dream than an actual event. I'm very thankful that this event and time is not a memory that I remember vividly. I have few of these moments at various times in my recovery. I'm not entirely certain what occurred after I was sedated, but at some point, my sister contacted my wife and said she needed to come to the hospital as I had a seizure. It was not 100% clear at this point what was going on with me. At some point, I did get an MRI, and it was discovered that there was significant blood building up in my skull. An aneurysm was suspected, but it was not conclusive at this point. So this is the point when the staff in Kitchener decided I should be sent to another facility since I was now sedated, and another facility would be better suited to investigate what was going on. After considering the locations of Toronto, Hamilton, or London, London was decided on, and I was transported by ground ambulance to London.